Good evening. I now call to order the meeting of the Board of Adjustment for the City of Apache Junction. Today's date is December 8th, 2025, and the time is 7 p.m. Please join me and rise for the National Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Rudy.
Chairman Shanebeck.
Here.
Vice Chair Martin.
Present.
Board Member Lanza.
Here.
Board Member Gordon.
Here.
Board Member Klepper.
Here.
Board Member Harshman.
Here.
Board Member Meek.
Here.
7 present. We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Rudy, roll call, please.
Board Member Meek.
Yes.
Chairman Shanebeck.
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin.
Yes.
Board Member Lanza.
Yes.
Board Member Gordon.
Yes.
Board Member Klepper.
Yes.
Board Member Harshman.
Yes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We have no public hearings this evening. We have no old business this evening, so we're going to move on to the new business, which is election of chair and vice chair. This procedure is a little bit long and drawn out, but we've been through this a lot of us before. So, at any rate, can I have a motion to open the nomination for the chairperson?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Who was the second? I'm sorry. Thank you. Board Member Meek.
Yes.
Board Member Harshman.
Here.
Board Member Klepper.
Yes.
Board Member Gordon.
Yes.
Board Member Lanza.
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin.
Yes.
Chairman Shanebeck.
Yes.
Nominations are being accepted, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move that we nominate Chairman Shanebeck for another term as chairman.
Thank you. I call for nominations for chairman. I call for nominations for chairperson. I call for nominations for chairperson. Can I have a motion to close the nominations for chair?
So moved.
Mr. Chair, I so move.
Second, please.
I second.
Roll call, Rudy.
Board Member Harshman.
Yes.
Board Member Klepper.
Yes.
Board Member Gordon.
Yes.
Board Member Lanza.
Yes.
Board Member Meek.
Yes.
Chairman Shanebeck.
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin.
Yes.
Nominations are closed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
We have one person nominated for chair. That would be Frank Shanebeck.
Thank you. I now call for a motion to approve Frank Shanebeck for chairperson.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Rudy.
Board Member Gordon.
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin.
Yes.
Board Member Harshman.
Yes.
Chairman Shanebeck.
Yes.
Board Member Meek.
Yes.
Board Member Lanza.
Yes.
Board Member Klepper.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Shanebeck. You are chairman once again.
Thank you, and thank you all. Can I have a motion to open nominations for the vice chairperson?
I so move.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
I second.
I'm sorry? Okay. Chairman Shanebeck.
Yes.
Board Member Meek.
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin.
Yes.
Board Member Harshman.
Yes.
Board Member Lanza.
Yes.
Board Member Klepper.
Yes.
And Board Member Gordon.
Yes.
Nominations for vice chair are open, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I now call for nominations for vice chairperson.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I nominate Vice Chair Martin for another term.
Thank you. I now call for nominations for vice chairperson. I now call for nominations for vice chairperson. I call for nominations for vice chairperson. Can I have a motion to close nominations for vice chairperson, please?
So moved?
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Rudy, roll call, please.
Board Member Meek.
Yes.
Board Member Lanza.
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin.
Yes.
Board Member Klepper,
Yes.
Board Member Harshman,
Yes.
Chairman Shanebeck,
Yes.
Board Member Gordon.
Yes.
Nominations are closed, Mr. Chairman. One
Thank you.
person nominated, that being Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Rudy. I now call for a motion to approve Rod Martin for vice chairperson.
So moved?
I second.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Chairman Shanebeck,
Yes.
Board Member Meek,
Yes.
Board Member Klepper,
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin,
Yes.
Board Member Lanza,
Yes.
Board Member Gordon,
Yes.
Board Member Harshman.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Martin. You are our vice chair once again.
All right, thank you all. That was well done.
Nobody wanted to make it interesting.
All right, next part of our new business here is, I get myself lost, is the discussion with staff on the duties of the Board of Adjustment. Joel?
Actually, Mr. Chair, congratulations. I'd like Rudy has some information for you also. And we may have duplicated each other on some of the authorities, but if I could let Rudy go first.
Just at your stations, Mr. Chairman, out of our zoning ordinance, I copied a couple of things for you. One is the powers of the Board of Adjustment, Section 1-16-4 out of our zoning ordinance. You will notice that it is reflective of state law, the handout that Joel gave you. I basically gave you two sections which pertain to the Board of Adjustment. One is the Board of Adjustment and Appeals explains what the board basically does. And then I also gave you the section on how the appeal and variance process works. A variance would be someone requesting to deviate from the standards that are normally required for the development of a property on a particular parcel, whether it be residential, commercial, industrial, public institutional. If somebody wants a height variance, if somebody wants a setback variance, if somebody is trying to build on a lot that's very small, those kinds of things, those are the types of cases that would typically come to you as part of a variance process. An appeal is more someone disagrees with a zoning administrator's interpretation of a certain provision of the zoning ordinance. Maybe they disagree on a particular land use in a particular zoning district. So one has to do with the configuration of land and buildings proposed on it. And the second, the appeal process has more to do with, I'm reading something differently than you're reading it. So those are the two types of cases that would typically come to the Board of Adjustment. Honestly, we don't get these cases very often. We used to get more of these back in the 90s for some reason, and then the last few years, they've seemed to kind of tapered off. Every once in a while, we get a very interesting controversial case.
You must have become very easy to work with.
Well, we try to help people find solutions, find compromises. Have you thought of doing it this way? Have you thought of maybe, approaching the development of property a different way? So we try to avoid folks extra cost, because of coming to the Board of Adjustment, there's an application, there's a time element, there's a fee element involved. And honestly, sometimes people would just rather fight us in court and pay the $250 fine as opposed to paying for a Board of Adjustment process that can be up around $700, $800. So that happens too, not very often. We get, for the most part, voluntary compliance. But every once in a while, we'll get a case come to the Board of Adjustment. And if it's justified, if there's a physical constraint with the property that a variance makes sense, we, support it. And of course, the decision is ultimately the board's. Appeal cases are a little more interesting because some things really are open to interpretation. No zoning ordinance is perfect. There's always going to be, matters that people see differently. And when those cases come up, we try to make our best recommendations to you and let you make the final decision. And then, of course, you are a quasi-judicial body, so your decision pretty much stands unless someone wants to appeal it to Superior Court. There is no appeal to the City Council. It's a little more formal in that respect, whereas, a Planning and Zoning Commission decision could be appealed to council. public art committees, Parks and Rec Committee. Those types of boards have internal appeal mechanisms. Board of Adjustment, someone would have to go to court to challenge your decision. So that's basically my handout to you, Mr. Chairman. Joel's got stuff straight out of ARS and some case law to share. Unless you have any questions for me, I'll turn it over to Joel.
Anybody have any questions for Rudy? No. Okay, I think Rod was right on when he said things are going very smoothly. You have to be a part of that. Okay, Joel?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Rudy. First of all, it's going to be very rare that I give you advice, because if you have a contested case and there's an attorney on the other side, what I will do is I will hire another attorney to handle your representation. That's in case if something happens and someone doesn't like your decision, they can take it to Superior Court. And if the other side has an attorney, it's more likely that that would happen. So I would not want to compromise my duty to my client, which is, when it's a contested issue, it would be, my client is the city. So that means Rudy and his staff. And so when there's an attorney that sues, they're going to sue the city of Apache Junction. They might name all of you. I've seen that done in cities. And so you need representation separately. And if it ever does go that way, depending on what happened at the Board of Adjustment, it might be a different attorney that I hire to actually represent you. So just keep that in mind. But you are protected in that sense. So what I've given you is the authority to establish the Board of Adjustment, and we have met that. It's under 9-462.06, and that's by creating the ordinance that actually set up the Board of Adjustment. So you have that also. And we can go through these quickly if you'd like. It's a public hearing process. Under B, the authority and jurisdiction exists under letter C. And like Rudy mentioned, there's two different types of things that you will see: zoning administrator appeals and also variances. There has been in the past a stay of an action so that there's more time given, and that comes up under letter E. You have to do a notice and hearing. You are subject to the open meeting law, and so there has to be an agenda. There has to be the notice that goes out. The power of the Board of Adjustment under letter G3, you can reverse or affirm or modify the order of a zoning administrator. That is what you're supposed to do. One of those things. You cannot change a use, because that's really up to the city council when they pass a zoning code. You can't add a use. If someone just said, hey, I want to have cattle slaughtering industrial next to residential. No, you cannot add that. So if that comes to you, remember, you cannot change the use. For a variance, it has to be special circumstances. It cannot be self-imposed. Some of the cases talk about that, and I'll get into that a little bit later. We're in a interesting situation. We have less than 100,000 people, and so there's a provision in the code that says if the city has more than 100,000 people, it's treated a little different. The city council, actually, someone could appeal to the city council. They go to the Board of Adjustment. If they don't like what the Board of Adjustment did, then they go to the city council. So 100,000 or more persons in those jurisdictions. Rudy, we're not going to be there for another year, right? Is that about right?
A few months.
Okay. And there's 30 days after the Board of Adjustment hearing that someone has a right to file an appeal. And once again, it goes to court, and the court can affirm or reverse or modify your decision. And then going to the city code provisions, pretty much, we tried to mirror that, and we pretty much have done that. We spelled it out a little bit more. There's another part in here that says no ex parte communication. So what that means is you shouldn't be talking to the attorney for the other side or me before the meeting, before the hearing. That's called an ex parte. It's separate, and that all has to be in public. So when an attorney comes to you or wants to seek you out before the hearing, this is not the Planning and Zoning Commission. That's a little different, where, yes, attorneys can do that because they're doing that on behalf of their client, the applicant. Yes, there's an applicant for Board of Adjustment, but because you are a quasi-judicial board, and that means you actually judge things also. So you judge what the zoning administrator did. That's why it says quasi-judicial. Because of that, you cannot talk to the applicant, you cannot talk to the attorney before the hearing. You have to do everything in public. That's how it is set up. There's some new standing law, which I'll go through. There's application requirements, and I think that is pretty much, when someone wants to go to the board, we have to do part of the cost of the hearing. We have to notice everyone within 300 feet, meaning all property owners. So that has to be done. And if that's messed up, that can cause problems at court, because that cannot be messed up in any way. Okay, so there's also something in our code that's a little unusual. It says, say you give somebody a variance. Well, you put a deadline on that, and they have a certain amount of time to do that, and it's 1 year. And that would be in the actual Board of Adjustment ruling. It's a little different than a zoning case, where the Planning and Zoning Commission might say, yes, we want to, well, it'd be the city council at one point, because planning and zoning is pretty much recommendations. So the council would say, okay, you now have your new zoning. You have 2 years to do it, say it's a CUP, and if you don't do it, it basically goes away. Well, it has to come to a meeting for that to happen. It's not an automatic reversion to the old zoning. It used to be, and that changed, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. So that's how that would work. But with a Board of Adjustment matter, it's quasi-judicial. Once again, if you give somebody a variance, they have a year to do it. And if they don't, I think what would happen is we'd bring it back for full due process to the board, where you would then say, okay, you did not do this, so your variance is gone. That's what we probably would do. Haven't had to do that before. Usually people act on it pretty quickly when they get a variance, especially when the board is being very generous. So going to the memo, I picked some cases that I thought are interesting. To me, they're fascinating, okay, just to me. I don't know, maybe to Rudy they're a little fascinating, but some people, they could care less. But if you want a copy of these cases, let me know, and I can certainly email them to you or get you hard copies. I find it fascinating. So standing, the first case is Arcadia Osborne. The bottom line on that was you've got to have particularized individual harm. In this case, it was a billboard challenge. People were complaining about new billboards that went up in Phoenix, in downtown Phoenix, and they really couldn't say, hey, it's particular to me. And so they didn't have a standing. It was just a group of people that saw the billboard every time they went to work, and they didn't like it, and they didn't like seeing it, and that was it. And so that wasn't enough, so they did not have standing. Time to file an appeal. The time runs 30 days from final Board of Adjustment decision. In the case that I cited, it got a little fuzzy on what the Board of Adjustment actually did, but they did a final, they did a decision, and then someone tried to appeal it. And so when does the time actually count from? And it's the time that they said, yeah, this is our decision. So that was an interesting case. Defamatory statements. So people think they could say anything, especially when they're in public. Well, to a certain degree they can't if it's true. And also when people come to a hearing, like a zoning hearing, or even here, what they can do is, if it's true, and they're acting in their capacity, First Amendment capacity, and so they can say how they feel about a project. They absolutely can do that. Now, there's been attempts in the past to shut those people down afterwards or get even with them because the applicant didn't like what they said. And so that's called an anti-SLAPP suit. So anti-SLAPP, strategic litigation against public participation. That means the applicant's upset because they didn't like what the person said, and they're going to go after that person for damages in court. And that has happened in the last 20 years. It's happened at least twice. And those are nasty lawsuits.
Aren't those being challenged? Isn't Arizona anti-SLAPP laws being challenged right now?
Yeah, but I think it'll be constitutional.
I do too, but
Yeah, they're going after it for First Amendment. It's like, well, there is a First Amendment, and you can say things during, it's in a public forum. This is a public forum, and it's a traditional public forum. So this case involved a issue involving land, and some people were upset. They went after each other. And the bottom line is, if it's true, it's privileged, especially at the Board of Adjustment level, because it's in a quasi-judicial forum. Rehearing versus abuse of discretion decisions. The court is to determine whether a Board of Adjustment decision was arbitrary or capricious or otherwise abused its discretion. So it's not really a rehearing. It's whether they look at the facts, they look at the record. So what would happen is if you got something that you did got appealed, the tape recording or the video of this both would go to, I'd have a court reporter here sometimes also in case something happened to the video. Because I don't want to have this retried, because that's the problem. If, say, your record is bad and if you can't hear it, you can't see it, it's really more of hearing it. So I would kind of double the effort by having a court reporter here. And that way, the court, when it gets to court, that's all they listen to. That's what they look at. And they look at exhibits that had been put in that you accepted as exhibits. So that's why we do the hearing to that extent. And then the judge would just look at it saying, okay, did you abuse your discretion? Were you arbitrary or capricious in the evidence that you heard? And that's supposed to be the sole focus of an appeal of a Board of Adjustment matter. It's not supposed to be a new hearing. It's only a new hearing when the record got messed up. And then it goes to trial in court, and that's we don't really like that to happen. So let's move on. There's use versus one typo, page 3, use, it said of area variance. It should have said or. There's a use variance, and that's the kind that where you allow a use that's not in the code. An area variance relieves the duty to comply with specific setbacks, specific lot issues, frontage, height, that sort of use, and yard size, density. In this case, this was a pawn case. Everybody loves pawn shops, right? But before that, it was a adult theater.
well, everybody loves those, right?
Oh, everybody loves those, right?
That was a step in the right direction.
So what happened was Phoenix rezoned it, or they took some property, and so now the buildings were, the lot size was too small to have that kind of use. So they wanted to do a pawn shop. And so it came down to standing. It's always something, I mean, that was something simple, and the court said the pawn shop had standing. The guy, the neighbor, whoever, I think the neighbor, Jamachek, I think his name, he was a competing pawn shop somewhere in the area, and he didn't like what was going on. He didn't want to have competition. So the pawn shop, the court basically said, yeah, they have standing. And so that's where that came up. And then they got into what's a use variance and what's an area variance. Convenience versus hardship. So you will hear that when you get a variance case. In this particular case, this was fascinating. He was in Paradise Valley. Some guy wanted to build a house and paint it a certain color, and he had dreamed of having a white house in a Mediterranean style. However, the exact and the color was not in the city code. He said, it doesn't matter. I've wanted to do this, and it generally meets it. And basically, the court ended up saying, no, it's not in the code, so we're not going to change the code. So no, you have to pick one of the colors. I mean, this is Paradise Valley. You don't mess with Paradise Valley, especially
Wait,
the government.
they have colors in their city code.
They certainly do.
Are they an HOA or are they a zoning code?
Well, some people say the city's an HOA, but it's not. They have it in their code.
I was being facetious.
It's an they do things because, you don't want to have a house. Your house on the hill is worth $5 million, and then someone builds this nasty yellow house, and you don't want that because it's going to affect your property value. And property value there is like the goal. Keep property values as high as possible. And that's what they do there. Here they had, I think, they had a colors that were in tone with like the mountains. And this guy just thought white blended in with the mountains, and it didn't. So now tell that to the Sandovier Mission down in Tucson. That's white, okay? White. That doesn't blend in with anything, but hey, churches are exempt. And that was done in 1796, I think, so.
Their grandfather did.
I would say great-great-great-great-grandfather. Yeah, wouldn't you say, Rudy? Is that about right?
That's the correct technical term, yes.
Yes, okay. There is a height variance thing. This is another Tucson case that goes back 60 years. If everybody, I don't know if anybody knew the store called Levy's, but it was a high-end department store. And they wanted to build another floor because, in their opinion, Levy's is not a basement type of store. That was their attitude. And so basically and this is in a very expensive area of the city of Tucson. It's called kind of like downtown Phoenix, you have El Encanto. This was also El Encanto. That's what they call it in downtown Tucson, or not downtown, it's not down, it's midtown. But very, very expensive houses nearby. People didn't want to see 3 stories, even though it was far enough in on the setbacks, that didn't matter. So the court basically said, this is self-imposed. Once again, it's that term, self-imposed. You did this to yourself. And so we're not going to agree to it. And you're too high. You're not under the code. We're not going to increase the height under the code. That's basically what that court did. Okay, so notice. Adequacy, this is the Camelback case. A hospital. Mr. Martin and I were talking about that. They wanted to remodel. And the question there was, could they remodel? And the court eventually said, no, they cannot, because it went beyond what the code said. And there was also a notice issue. The notice itself that goes out to the 300 feet. It has to show what kind of change, if there's going to be a change, how it affects nearby properties. And I think the notice in that case was inadequate. So those are just a sampling of these cases. Fascinating stuff. You could read this stuff for hours and hours, especially Mr. Shanebeck. But, are there any other questions on processes? I mean, we don't really want you to get a case because Rudy's always right in, his decisions, but I don't like when people challenge him. However, if it comes, you will get the case and you'll get it promptly, and we will definitely deal with it, especially if there's attorneys involved. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Of course.
So if the Board of Adjustment does need legal advice on a particular case, how do they go about requesting legal advice? Say, for example, call an exec session, and when is an exec session used?
Okay, say you get your packet, and now you're going through it and say, oh my God, this hearing's in 5 days. I don't know what this stuff means. So you want to talk to someone. You probably should wait until the meeting, and if I have an attorney involved, you will talk to an attorney. You won't talk to that attorney in here during the public. If it's a legal issue, you should really do it in what's called executive session. And that's where you go back into a room and you make deals. No, I'm just kidding. You don't make deals. You ask the attorney questions about the case, and it has to be legal questions. You cannot talk about, hey, Martin's going to vote this way. We have 3 other votes on the other side. Let's just vote that way. You can't do that. Executive sessions, you cannot vote in executive session. If it's a policy issue, you really cannot do it. You only could ask the attorney, hey, if we do this, what's, what would happen? Hey, what about the variance? Does it meet these three things? And the attorney can go through, well, here's what the variance is, and here's how you meet it. So it's up to you to match up the facts to decide whether the variance is there. That's your job. So if you do want to talk to an attorney, that's how you're supposed to do it. If you want to talk to an attorney before the meeting, that'd be kind of a little difficult because you're supposed to really be all together to do that. And then if you have a meeting that has not been noticed, that's a problem. You have to, you really need to meet the open meeting law. So that's why you can have an executive session. And don't worry about how much time it takes. People are still waiting here. That's okay. We'll take you back into the a conference room. That's how it would work. And then everybody else stays out here, including me and Rudy, and you'd be in there with the attorney. And that's how that would work.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, we have done that also.
Yes.
I have a question. Theoretically, under the ex parte thing is a thing that always makes the hair on my neck stand up because we live in a small town. So say we do have a case. Of course, he's going to make sure we don't because he's just very smooth and makes things Willy Wonka over there. So, but say I'm pushing my grocery cart in Safeway and an applicant comes up and says, oh, hey, you're on the Board of Adjustment. I got a case next week. Or my mother does, and she's a sweet old lady. What do we do?
And that's a good point. It goes also to relatives.
It may not be, nefarious. It's, people are people, and
Sure, but it also goes to your relatives of the applicant. If they say, hey, my mother has a case in front of you, you need to just, at that point, shut them down and say, I'm sorry, I cannot talk to you about that case in any form, and I'll see you at the meeting.
and then do we disclose that incident at the meeting?
You can, but especially if some on the other side, they bring it up and say, hey, I saw you meeting with them. You can't do that. Like a neighbor who's in protest of whatever you're deciding.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him, here's a picture, here's my cell phone here.
Oh, yeah.
I
And
would think
that's
especially
not
if-
good.
Especially if that relative, the plaintiff, offered you something inappropriate.
Yeah.
Well, like, hey, if you vote this way, I'll give you $50,
Yeah.
or I'll give you, if you come to my restaurant, I'll give you a free, dinner. You can't do that, no.
No.
No, but when people see you, I'll give you, I know you want to get out of here, but I'll give you a little story. When I was a Greenhorn prosecutor back too long ago, way too long ago, I was in a jury trial, and we had a jury assembled, and we were doing jury deliberation. Well, actually, not deliberations, we were just getting the jury impaneled. We impaneled it. And then my great uncle was in town. And so he was in town that day. You can't say no to your great uncle, right? You can't. So I took him out to lunch, and then we came back, and he left. And then we came back into the courtroom. And then immediately I had the other attorney saying, Your Honor, Mr. Stern met with a juror. Well, my uncle happened to look like some of the jurors because he was in his 80s. And so I had to explain that. So it's good that, I never would have thought someone would accuse me of that. That was terrible. But yeah, you don't want to be accused of that for sure. And so, yeah, you should probably tell the rest. And you could do that in public or in e-session. But it's better to do it in public saying, Mr. Chair, I just want to disclose that the son of the applicant who's sitting in the third row approached me at Fry's 2 nights ago and wanted to talk about the case, and I refused. Now, if they also offered you something, that you can get into a crime that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that does need to be disclosed, because if you don't disclose it, then you're going to be accused of conspiring. You
Right.
don't want that either.
Any more questions for Joel? Before we wrap up and pick the next meeting date, this is a very strong-looking commission we have here, and we don't have many cases, but when we do, like Joel said, they don't go to the city council, they go to the Superior Court for appeal. So it's imperative for us to do our best in deciding those cases. So whenever we do get a packet, please study it thoroughly and be ready for our meeting
And follow the law,
and follow the law.
not your feelings, because
No.
that has happened in the past. Do
The
not
law-
do that. Please
The
do
law is
not.
logic, not feelings.
Well,
And you can
feelings,
call planning staff with any questions you may have.
yes, definitely.
And has everybody here been through the Joel indoctrination about what we can and can't do as board members? Okay, good.
Feelings works both ways. You can have somebody that you immensely dislike, but that doesn't, you can't hold that, and you can have a sweet old granny that can't work either.
Can't work either.
You have to follow the case law.
Yeah, and there's been occasions where it's sad that someone put themselves in that position, but it's just, that's how it is, and the board would rule on the side of law, which is what they're supposed to do. There's been other cases where the board has followed the feelings of people, and that is ugly too, and that didn't get appealed, but in my opinion, it should have been. And I won't identify which hearing that was or which hearings that was, but it was a fascinating one.
Rudy, when would we schedule our next meeting? In January?
As soon as we get a case.
Okay, so at this point, do we schedule a meeting at all or just adjourn?
Subject to the call of the
Well,
chair.
you would normally schedule for your next regularly scheduled meeting, just a formality. If there's no meeting on January 12th, you will get a notice saying the January 12th meeting is.
So if I could get a motion to have our next meeting January 12th, and again, if we aren't meeting, Rudy will let us all know.
So moved.
Second, please.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Board Member Gordon.
Yes.
Board Member Lanza.
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin.
Yes.
Chairman Shanebeck.
Yes.
Board Member Meek.
Yes.
Board Member Harshman.
Yes.
Board Member Klepper.
Yes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I adjourn this meeting at 7:37 PM.